physical abuse, of emotional abuse. And at the age, my first memory, when I was about 3 years of age, and a soldier sexually abused me. And that was really the beginning for many years of abuse. And then when I came into my teenage years, I was abusing myself because I thought the way of looking for love is by having sexual relationships. I didn't know any better. So I had many sexual relationships, and of course that gave me a very bad name. And it's only years later that I realized that I never really had close friends. The so-called friends, they were there to use me, and then they moved on. But anyway, so I was caught in that life, and it was very difficult to break out of it. At that time, I was baptized a Lutheran. So at that time, I was still a Lutheran, but through some grace, somebody praying in heaven for me, maybe somebody in my ancestry, that from a very early age, I did believe in the true presence. And not only that, I felt our Blessed Mother. She held my hand. She really took me step by step from a very early age. But of course, I wasn't aware of it until many years later. So then eventually, when I had the opportunity to come to Ireland, which was in 1977, I used that opportunity, like I said, to try and run away from our past. But I think every one of us knows we can't run away from our past. It's impossible. And as Don said earlier on, we can pretend to other people. We can hide our sinfulness, our brokenness from other people, but not from the Lord, and not from ourselves either. So when I came to Ireland, I eventually met people in the charismatic renewal. And that really helped me then eventually to coming into the Catholic faith, which was really something that was in the heart, in the depth of my heart for so many years. But I felt that if somebody looked at me, they would see I was no good. They would see all those terrible things I had done in the past. And I even felt that they could see that I was abused. And there was so much hatred, so much unforgiveness, so much resentment. There was just bitterness in my life. And then I met my husband. And actually before we got married, I had a son. And when he was 18 months old, he had leukemia. And I was told that he would die, that he had no chance to survive because the prognosis was very poor. And always in the most difficult times in my life, where do you think I went? To our Blessed Mother. And I always felt she was waiting for me. I always felt she was there for me. I always felt she was listening to me. And that's for every one of us. You know, we heard a beautiful talk earlier on from Mark, about the Blessed Mother. And it's really, he put my heart on fire because I have had that glimpse of being loved by our Blessed Mother. And that's for every one of us. And what does she do? She brings us to Jesus, to his mercy. So anyway, my life went on. I still didn't have much changes in my life. I still was carrying a lot of bitterness, resentful, grudges, all of that. And it also came out when I look back on pictures, I never smiled. I never told a joke. I was always miserable. Sometimes I was trying to pretend, but it just didn't work. So then, like I said, just over 20 years ago, I came into the Catholic faith. And I thought, now everything is going to be okay. But it wasn't. Because I had to deal with all that brokenness, with all that misery, with all that, the imperfections and the weaknesses. And who was condemning myself? I was condemning myself, not the Lord. I always say, who has that little black book when we go into confession? We go in, the Lord forgives, we come out, and we have the little black book. We remember everything that we have done as if we hadn't been in confession. So anyway, when I came into the Catholic faith, I just felt, somebody asked me, like, how did you feel when you come into the Catholic Church? And I said, I felt like I came home. And not a home where a building where we were born, where we grew up. No, my home is anywhere. Because I do believe the Lord is present anywhere. So it's really, once we become aware of his presence, he's around us, he's in our friends, he's in even the person that we don't like when we meet them. He's in that person as well. So it was really for me a great grace to come into the church. But still, I was so aware. I remember going to the first confession before I became a Catholic. And I said to myself, I can't tell the priest of all the things that I have done. I mean, I had tried to commit suicide 3 times. Like I said, I don't know how many relationships I had, sexual relationships, that's innumerable. And so many other things that I had done. And I said, there's no way I can go into that confession box and tell the priest those secrets. So I just said what I felt I could say, and it really wasn't a good confession. But, I was thinking earlier on, when you have a car and you want to take it to the car wash, you don't clean it beforehand and then take it to the car wash. You take it all dirty and make sure that it has a good wash. And that's the same thing with going into the confession. You don't look at, like, what am I going to say? Is that okay to say it to the priest? And then worse, even we say, I don't know if I want to go talk to this priest because maybe he doesn't understand me. Or, we find all sorts of excuses. And actually, St. Faustina, the Lord said something to her, which is, sorry, I'm just trying to find the right one. My daughter, it's 1725. My daughter, just as you prepare in my presence, so also you make your confession before me. The person of the priest is, for me, only a screen. Never analyze what sort of a priest it is that I am making use of. Open your soul in confession as you would to me, and I will fill it with my light. And I have to say, I'm guilty of that as well. So many times I have gone into confession, and I even say, Lord, you sent me to the right confessor. But I don't do that anymore, because I know that every single priest represents the Lord in confession. And then I remember the first time when I went to confession, I said this, or it was maybe a couple of times afterwards, I said to a friend, I find confession so difficult. And she said, when you go into confession, imagine Jesus standing beside the priest. And the moment you enter in, he's saying, I already have forgiven your sins. Wow. I was so happy, you still go through it. The Lord knows you're going through with your confessions. But you don't focus on the priest. You're focusing on the Lord. And it's so reassuring to think that the greater our misery is, and I certainly can say from the depth of my heart that I thank God for everything that has happened to me in the past, because I have received an abundance of his mercy. It's only because of his mercy that I'm standing here. It's because of his mercy that I am who I am today. It's because of his mercy that my whole life has been transformed. That I'm not anymore the person that focuses on the brokenness, on the imperfections, on the sinfulness. But my focus is on God, on God's mercy. And just to imagine, he's waiting there all the time. He's waiting for every one of you today to use the sacrament of confession, to be cleansed, to be, those areas that you find difficult to talk about, those areas that you feel embarrassed about, The Lord is saying, come to me today. My mercy is far greater than anything you can imagine. In Faustina's diary, the Lord said, gather all sinners from the entire world and immerse them in the abyss of my mercy. So to gather all sinners, can you imagine all our sins, all the people in the whole world? He wants all those sinners to be gathered, and still his mercy is far greater than that. It's still only like a drop in the ocean. And just a little story to do with my mom. I had a very bitter relationship with her. And when I grew up, I had so much hatred in my heart for her. And then a couple of years ago, I really felt I should go home to Germany and to apologize to my mom, and also to give her my own forgiveness with the grace of God, which I did. And it was amazing. She's in a nursing home. She was nearly blind. She has 2 tumors and numerous other complications. She couldn't speak because of several mini-strokes. After I apologized to her from the depth of my heart, and I also said to her that I forgive her for all the hurt that she had caused me. And I have to say, before I went to Germany, I went to confession, really one of those graced moments. And what did my mom do? She spoke. Her tongue was released. The gift of forgiveness. The gift of the graces that flow when we come to the Lord with a sincere heart. And the whole area of abuse. I know there is so much has been over the last few years in the paper, in the media. Constantly it has been addressed. And I knew in my heart it was really painful for me at times. And I felt I wasn't abused by all the people they were talking about. I had been abused by a soldier. And it was really, I really had to deal with it. And you know what? About a year and a half ago, a friend contacted me and she said to me, I have somebody that would like to meet you. He's a convicted pedophile. And you know what? There wasn't even a moment hesitation in my heart. I said, of course I meet him. Of course I will. My heart was really jumping with joy. And we did meet, and I could embrace him. I've met him a couple of times since. Now, he is not the person that abused me, but still, he is somebody that had done those horrific things that were done to me. But I realized that the Lord had given me the grace to forgive. And through that forgiveness, and through my own healing of all the anger and resentment that I had experienced, I now was totally open to receive God's mercy. And I praise and thank God today for all the difficulties in my life. Because of that, I have received an abundance of His mercy. God bless you.